Hello, everyone. My name is Rebecca Morton. My pronouns are she, her. I am the Director of Artist and Studio Programs here at Baltimore Clayworks, and we are thrilled that you all have joined us. I would like to acknowledge that I'm joining from my office, located on Piscataway and Susquehannock land, currently known as Baltimore, Maryland. It is my pleasure to welcome you to our virtual artist talk given today by Jai Sallay-Carrington. They were the Lormina Salter Fellow at Baltimore Clayworks from 2023 to 2024. Jay was the recipient of the Mary E. Nyberg Grant in 2024 and used the funds to help support their residency at the Sointula House in Sointula, British Columbia. For more information about our artist talks, please visit our virtual library at baltimoreclayworks.org and tune in for our next artist talk on Tuesday, April 8th with Kelsey Bowen from 12:30 to 1:30. Kelsey will be teaching a workshop here on April 26th and 27th. Limited spots remain, so if interested, please be sure to sign up soon. I will now turn it over to Jay.
Hi, everyone. I see some familiar faces. It's so nice to see you. Yeah, so I wanted to show you a quick, it's the living room, but I converted it into a studio. But for funsies, that's the ocean right behind the screen there. So I'm going to start my little slideshow that I started, but it's really nice to see lots of those faces up there. Hi, guys. All right. Thank you so much for the grant to help me come to Sointula and do this beautiful residency. I was here for a month and a half. I'm leaving a little bit earlier than planned to make it to Ensika and cram in a couple soda firings because, me and my atmospheric firings, and they're harder to find now because I got spoiled up in Baltimore having it in the backyard. Now I got to hunt them down around the city. Um, so this photo you're looking at was taken the day that I set up. This is Rebecca's house. So Sointula is the name of the island, is the name of the town on the island of Malcolm Island, and Art Shed, Sointula Art Shed is the name of the residency, and this is sort of like the second location. Carrie's here with us. Carrie is the Art Shed is her project, and so yeah, this is the second location. This is the living room, but I was in this house alone, so I got to turn it into the studio. This is the front of the house. I arrived in a snowstorm, so lots of the photos have snow in it, but it is much warmer now. Thank you to good old sunshine. But the ocean is right there. I didn't know you could build houses so close to the water. So this beautiful house. The right next to it is the boathouse, the studio that when it's not winter, you can kind of turn that into or that is the studio. You can see in the photo on the right there where the kiln is. And yeah, that's where it's built even closer to the water so you can pull your boat up. And I mean, that's where Rebecca does her repairing of fishing nets. She's a fisherman. And you can see her clay studio in the background there. But it was so cold that I just put the studio right in the living room. And for those of you who have no idea where I am, I'm all the way, Vancouver is down there, and then hopped across a ferry, drove 4 hours up to Port McNeill, and then a second tinier ferry to go over to Malcolm Island, which is where I am right now. So this view behind me is I'm looking across the water at Port McNeill, and on the other side of the island is BC, like the whole mainland, which is so mountainous. It's beautiful. I've been going for so many beach walks here and finding dead things on the beach. Many of you don't know because I'm not allowed to bring my skulls to America because I'm in Canada, but I have a really big skull collection and I found a bunch on this beach. And I was on the phone with my grandma when I found when I found the cow skull. Oh, she's laughing so much as I'm just in hysterics finding this big thing. I also grew up in Vancouver near the beaches. And so I love all the creatures and things that wash up on the shore. So I don't know if you guys have bull kelp over on the East Coast, but they look like the beach is just covered in giant dead snakes, which like I also love snakes. So I don't know, maybe they look kind of gross, but I just got a tattoo of one recently. So to see like piles of them was really cool. We used to play skip rope with them when I was a kid. And on the right is the hold fast, the bottom of the bull kelp holding onto the biggest barnacles that I've ever seen. I've never seen barnacles this big up here. So spent many days going for lots of beach walks and just freaking out over the things that I'm finding on the shore. And there are also sea lions. Oh, why can't I change? And so a bit about the studio stuff. So when I applied for the grant, I was still very deep in the Trans Passions project. And since then, I burnt out from it a little bit, so I was taking a bit of a break. And so near the end of my residency at Baltimore Clay Works, I started to get into vases, which was a new way for me to explore clay. I've been doing pottery for quite a bit, but combining my sculptural elements with vases was a really fun way to explore something new. And I kind of started to see vases as, I'm a figurative artist, and so I'm doing human bodies. Um, and vases and like vessels in general very much are, they can be representations of the body. You have like the lip, the foot, the belly of the vessel. So already with the terminology, they're bodies, and they're things to contain, whatever you put in them. And as like we are bodies of, we contain memories, experiences, all of us, we contain our entire identities. So in this series that I started working on, I sort of started finding ways of exploring the vessel and combining it with my animal forms, and very much practicing getting to a point, because I wanted to build big vessels because I love building big stuff. Practicing getting to a point where I could build big enough that I was satisfied with the shape and the size of my vessels, that I would spend the time making like full figurative stuff on it. So when I first got here, I was making a little bit smaller vessels, and it's just like, love this view. To have a window is one thing, and to have this window is just phenomenal. Um, and so, for those of you who don't know, part of my process is I build, for the elements on the vases that have these animal parts, is I build the animal out of clay, and then I take a two-part plaster mold of it, and then I use those on the vessels, and that's how I get the symmetrical forms on either side. So these are a few of um, the ones that I made. Three of these I had while I was at Baltimore Clayworks, so you might recognize the forms. And then Sue recommended elephants, and so I made an elephant, as I like that, and the trunk has been a fun addition. Thanks, Sue. And so here's a couple of the smaller ones that I made. These are all about 10 inches tall, and just playing around with texture. Ooh, I got this because these are all destined for the soda kiln, obviously. And so these are all made with a kind of a clay that has flashing, like essentially a flashing slip in the clay. So for those of you who know more about the atmospheric firings and stuff, if I just put these bare clay things in the kiln, they're going to do some really cool stuff with the atmospheric kilns. I don't need to put any flashing slip or anything on them. So some friends of mine recommended this clay, so I'm really excited to try it. But they all said, "Oh yeah, I put glaze on some of my pots, but the ones that I left bare were my favorite ones." Like, perfect, minimal glazing. I don't like glazing, so that's what I was kind of focusing on here. And while I was driving up island to get here, my partner came to visit me for a few days, so I went to pick them up, and then we came up and we saw a whole herd of elk on the side of the highway, and oh, my voice just went really high. I was really exciting. I've been talking about it nonstop. I've never seen that many. I've never seen an elk, let alone a whole herd of them. So that was cool. So I started turning some of my goat forms into elk because I've been obsessed with it. And also lids is a new thing. I've just been trying lids, which has been really fun. And so finding ways of, you can see with the when I do goats and then the rabbits, kind of blending their horns and antlers together in a way. And so the longer I spent doing it, kind of the more intricate they got. These vessels are all getting up to like 16 inches tall. The one on the right's a bit wider. It's about 16 inches wide. But yeah, lids is a new thing. So I've had lots of time to practice on the wheel, which I'm like bouncing back and forth between so many things. But while I was here, I very much just practiced on the wheel, and I practiced throwing in multiple parts. So the one on the left is thrown in two parts, and the one on the right was like half thrown, and then with coils and kind of combining coil building and throwing. But yeah, I started throwing in parts, which was really fun, and trying new carving techniques, getting better at trimming. I don't know, it was a lot of just working hard and, practicing lots of vessel forms. And yeah, so the one on the left is quite a bit smaller, about 8 inches tall, and the one on the right I think is 18 inches tall. So I think that one was even three parts that I put together, but it kind of kept getting smaller because that was practicing and, in the finishing practice pieces. But obviously, I love horns. Everyone knows that. And getting so obsessed with like try all these intricate ways of combining them. And I'm very excited to see these in the soda kiln. And then this is the first one I did with the elephants. So the fun part about the elephant that I realized is because all of my other animals that I was using, the head was lower and then the head extended up. So the ears, the horns, whatever were above. So I could put the head lower and the ears up. But the elephant, the head is up here and then it extends down. And so after I made the mold, I realized, oh, I need to build things taller so that I can get the elephant shape to work well with the shape of the vase, the vessel, whatever. And so then I tried building this taller, and this one was my first. This one I think is 18 inches tall. This was three parts that I ended up getting smaller, and I had to keep cutting stuff because it was very much learning, and I ended up having to carve that texture a ton because trimming it was I was having a hard time. So this was me trying to uh, build extra tall and incorporate the elephants in a way. I just packed this into, oh man, I don't know what I'm doing with these tusks. I love the little things sticking out, but I really hope they survive my drive home because I already broke one of them, but that's what we have good glue for. And then again with the elephants and lids, combining lids, I'm having a lot of fun with these like tiny forms and finding new ways of cleaning up the edges and getting really intricate with the vessels. I'm having such a fun time with vessels, and yeah, I'm really excited to see what these look like once they're fired and getting to do the elephant faces. It's like I got stuck in my, like I don't have to do goats. I have to remind myself. And I want to. And so this is I wanted to show you a bit of the before and after of me adding the heads on there. This is when I was like couldn't stop thinking about elk, and they were like massive antlers. Yeah, big antlers. I was googling, looking at all different pictures of them because I was just getting so obsessed. And so this one is 22 inches tall. It's quite, or 20, it's something like that. This was three parts, and so this is my not my tallest one actually. Yeah, I kept challenging myself to go taller and taller, and so this was nearing the end of the trip. But those antlers are a complex situation, that was for sure. And so yeah, carving that down, that was a fun time. I learned so much about throwing. Shay, I was thinking about you a lot. That's the noodly line, and then also just throwing because you're always getting your vessels out there. So I was like channeling my inner Shay, like, okay, let's get this pottery happening. And this wonderful art shed out here. This is the original art shed location. They have a wonderful little gallery, window gallery that you can see from the street. So thank you, Carrie, for putting my work in there. This is the view of the whole town is right on the water, and so Carrie's place is like just up the street. And so I got to put my pieces, a few of the finished pieces that weren't finished, that haven't been soda fired, obviously, but they're built and fired, bisque fired. Got to put those in the window, and so that was really fun to just see them in a new location and install them on some logs. And I think I got a few more photos. Yeah, of the lighting was really nice, especially during sunset, and seeing them just in a new setting. Because like when you have your pieces in your studio all the time, it's hard to sometimes see them in a different context. And so it's nice to see them in a gallery setting and just like a little gallery window and get them out of the studio and just kind of take a step back and see the shapes. And that's when I started to notice like, oh yeah, I might maybe have to repair that thing or da da da. And that's when I kind of see them differently. So then I picked up the pieces and started to prepare them for the soda firing. And so part of the process of me doing that is I paint them with either usually a red iron oxide, but I forgot to bring that to the island. So I just used a black underglaze. Speedball underglaze goes up to cone 10. Also, all of the colors go up to cone 10 if you want to include more in those wooden soda firings. That was a fun discovery. But this one, I'm just painting black underglaze on the animals just to get those textures visible. I don't usually like putting glaze on top of my pieces because I love textures so much. And so this way, I paint it on and then wipe it off, and all the raised surfaces will be the color of the clay, which is going to be, so it's a light clay, but it's got all this flashing stuff in it. So it's going to be oranges and speckles and fun things like that. And then the black will be pretty dark in the creases down there. And then I was trying, I think I maybe told you guys while I was in Baltimore Clayworks, I feel like I discovered clothing only in the last couple of years. I've been making nude sculptures for so long that the thought of clothes was like, because I was sculpting for models, and some people sent me images with their wearing clothes. Like, okay, I'm going to sculpt clothing. So I'm just playing around with more ways of doing clothes and just practicing color. And I've tried to make maybe a little like more expressions and things like that in their gestural movements. And that one down there is drinking rocket fuel. If you can't read it, I hadn't cleaned it up yet. But yeah, so lots of practicing with new forms. And then I feel like I was getting my vessels, uh, my practicing vessels. I wanted to get them to the point where I felt confident enough in my vessel making. They're big enough in my vessel making that I really wanted to attach something. And then at that point, I felt that I could start using figurative forms again because I love figurative sculpting. And so I wanted to make more. You know, speaking specifically about trans experiences, as most of you are in America, so you're aware of what's going on. It's scary times down there for a lot of people, but especially trans folks. And so I wanted to make a piece that was kind of talking about this support of trans communities, trans love, trans just like connection, all of it. And so this is actually um, my partner and me, and it kind of got the wolves facing outwards, and so they're sort of like their teeth are showing, but not to each other, to outwards, because it's like we're our community takes care of each other, and so this whole thing is about 20 oh no 25 inches tall, and then the kiln itself is 25.5 inches tall on the inside. So I actually had to lower the bottom shelf a teeny bit to make sure it fit. It kept getting really tall up there. But yeah, so this is my tallest piece, and I was so excited to have it finished. Before I fired it, I drilled a couple holes in the back of it, so I'm going to include some metal bits. No idea how I'm going to do that yet, but I'm going to find someone with a metal studio that I can use. But I want to include some more elements in there, and just get it uh yeah, just like build it up. I also made a wider base that I'm going to glue on later, because as it kept getting wider and bigger this way, so I'm nervous it's going to be a little tippy. But yeah, and I'm going to throw some, like my last pieces, I used gold on the scars, referencing some Kensuke, celebrating the scars kind of a things. So I'm going to add some gold luster in there, and I actually ran out of my nice flashing clay, and so I used a different white clay. But then I made a flashing slip out of the original clay. So the vessel itself is going to be that flashing clay, and then the bodies are going to be, it's a white clay. So I don't know how it's going to react in the kiln, but I don't do much planning anyways, so I'm just going to throw it in and hope for the best. But yeah, I felt really excited to get to a point where my vessels, where I felt confident enough in my vessels that I wanted to spend the time adding my figurative pieces on there. And so I built, yeah, 3-part vessel, and then with coils, building the bodies up there. And I kind of started playing around with combining faces when I was in grad school. And I didn't do it a ton in the last year in Baltimore. And I was kind of thinking about those shapes a lot and how they add kind of just a lot of movement and expression. I can get all different kinds of faces in there, and yeah, just sort of bringing the two figures together in this fun way. So that was a nice, a fun exploration in there. And this another view of the face and all the teeny tiny details. Oh, I did all the teeth. Those are so small. I put a video on Instagram of some little moments of finalizing the last things and like making the tiny teeth and putting them in the little gums. So there's a little video of that if you want to see. And then, because I'm doing so many things at the same time always, I use my time here to plan my next exhibition. So I was kind of thinking of a Trans Passions adjacent project. I still have a couple more pieces that I'm going to finish for my Trans Passions series. I'm showing it again in Victoria, BC of 2025. So I've got just 2 more I'm going to finish for that series. But I'm planning my next big exhibition, which I spent my time here planning. So what I was thinking was a gateway being something that you enter through a gateway to enter a new location, a new state of being, a new, I don't know, just like a journey. You're making the choice to go from one place to another, physically or emotionally. And so I wanted to make a gateway that was sort of two trans figures with lion heads, animals that are big symbols of protection, and they're usually lions are often used on sides of gateways. We have lions on either side of our Lionsgate Bridge in BC. That's kind of what made me think of it initially. And so these animals that are symbol of protection and safety as you're crossing, with these two trans bodies being the pillars and then holding up the archway for the gateway. And then because I had so much fun doing the audio part of my Trans Passions project, like I've been sculpting a long time. I haven't been doing interviews forever, just since Trans Passions. And I was just so moved by getting to talk to so many people that I wanted to include interviews and audio component in another form. And so I, planned out this project. I sent it off to a bunch of places for exhibitions. Don't know yet how I'm going to build it because I want to do these figures life size. So we'll see how that works. But around this big life size gateway in the middle of the gallery is what I'm envisioning, is making a bunch of probably vessels, because that's what I'm into right now, around the edge of the gallery, and then in each of the vessels to have an audio device playing stories of trans and LGBTQ people talking about their own journey through their own gateway, their own moment of, maybe not moment, but experience of coming out, stories of connection, and really feeling seen and supported. I think in this scary times of stuff happening in America and Canada, we have now laws in some of our provinces that are limiting trans healthcare and sports and all that fun stuff that we love. Um, and so that those are happening more so all across North America. So I wanted to make an exhibition that was really talking about the support that we have, and the fact that you're not alone. LGBTQ communities are everywhere. You just got to find them, and that coming out is a really scary thing, but there's support. And so I was trying to, so use my time here for creating the body of work that I did, and also planning my next one. And so I'm super excited to hopefully get to build this at some point. But yeah, so anyway, so this is the sort of rough sketch for the future thing that I'm going to be doing. And I was so thrilled to have the time that I did to be here. And it's just such a gorgeous location. I went for walks on the beach almost every day, seeing this gorgeous landscape and just getting time to reflect and think about what else am I going to do with my art practice. So thank you so much, everyone. We can go back to the silly photo of me drinking my coffee on the bench this morning. Yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity to do this. Thank you, Carrie, and thanks everyone at Baltimore Clayworks, because this is